So fitting the AFR gauge, and Happy New Year, Merry Christmas and all that jazz. But as you can see, I've already put the lambda sensor in. I do have a Jap Speed ceramic coated downpipe. So what I've done, where I've run my boost gauge as well, there's a little grommet which I can't actually see at this moment. Where is it again? Oh, right there, just above the well, next to the brake master and clutch master. So going in through there with the plug, hopefully. That lambda's in, and then we'll go on from there. Once I've fed that through, I'll show you where it comes through in the car, and then we'll crack on. So from the box, what I've done, I've pulled the main feed wire out from, so that's the wire that plugs into the lambda, that's the one that plugs into the gauge. So what I'm going to do, go into the engine bay, that little hole I just showed you, feed this side through, and I'll show you where it comes through. So let's do that. So through the little hole, it's just there, it's just there, can you, I'm going to feed that wire through. It does normally have like a rubber grommet and plastic on, but I didn't get one with the car, so it's just there, so I'm using it as my access hole. This end through, feeding it through. Cable is already heat shielded, and like it's, I want to say it's like cam signal wire, where it doesn't really get interference, but I'm not 100% sure. So there's my plug. I do have to get some cable ties. I don't have any at the moment, but I will be cable tying that plug, that side, to my Speedo cable, and then sorting this side out better when I take this off. Because when I start the car, I'll show you, for some reason, I haven't figured it out yet, I've checked for vac leaks. My car's idling at like 2000 RPM when it's cold, and then it drops to like 1200 RPM. I'm not 100% sure why. We'll figure that out. But first of all, I want to sort out my AFRs. So after you've fed that cable through, you'll literally see it here on your floor, because it comes out just up there, just above your clutch pedal. So got the gauge. Ideally I want to get an oil temperature and oil pressure as well. As I said, I've already got a boost one there. I do have a Lamco AEM one to fit, but that'll come at a later date. I'm running the cable in up underneath where the steering column runs. Well, not where the steering column runs, but up through here. Because this is the cabling for the boost control solenoid, which I still need the cable tie out the way, but yeah. So I'm just going to run that up through here for now, and that leads to the back of the radio. So on the back of the radio, if I take the radio out in the surround, it'll show where everything needs to go. So I'll time lapse this to get everything out, and then I'll show you what I'm tying into for the electrical connections. Right, so that's the majority of the power. That's the power wire and the ground done. So that should, in theory, let me power up the gauge, power up everything else. So I'll quickly show you where I put my earth, and because my car has a ISO harness to run an aftermarket radio, which isn't connected, I've just teed into that, which is there, and then that's where I've mounted my boost controller. But when I go to a link, I will be getting rid of my boost controller and fixing my boost control solenoid issue, which I'm going to try and do in the meantime anyway, just so I can get rid of that, and then I'll sell the boost controller on. But let's see if all of this is paid off. I still do have to run the white and brown wires on the power loom, which is these two. I'm going to run them over there, but I'm going to put everything. I'm going to put the wires in, feed them down, and I'm just using the supplied buck connectors for now. When everything's sorted and I've got everything mechanically done and I pull out the boost controller, I'll be soldering the connections or putting them onto like a Deutsch connector. Just depends which way I go, but I will still be running it off my ISO harness, so I'm not damaging my original harness, because the only crimp in my entire loom, because I've swapped my dash out to here, so I don't want to be cutting any more wires or bodging anything else. Everything else under the dash is how it left the factory, so I don't want to be cutting up. That's why I'm not so bothered about this ISO harness. So when I run those down, I will just be putting a piece of heat shrink over them as well, heat shrink them off, and then I can cut that off when the link's in and tee them into one of the 5-volt input and outputs for the link, so the link can read what I'm seeing as my FR, just so when I'm mapping it, it's a million times easier. I will still be running stock boost though. I'm not going to up the boost because completely standard engine. I want the car to be as stock as possible, but running modern day management and an IAT sensor. Right. So I'll power up the gauge. That's my boost controller on, there we go. So we can see it works. It is powering up. Turn your trim wipers off. Turn the heating off. I will give a brief explanation of AFRs and why you want one of these gauges as well. There we go. So idle there, see, I'm running say high 16s, low 17s. So that would be classed as lean, but because I'm on idle and starting, you run maximum efficiency, which is around 15 to 16. As I said, the light is on as well. That's for my issue and boost control solenoid. But yeah, we can see she works. I'll bring you back once I've buttoned up everything and show you how neat it looks and where I've actually decided to mount it, because now that it works, I'm pretty happy. Give it a little rev. So I've got everything installed, just stuff, but there, so that's all in. ISO's in there, so that will need to, the radio needs to be changed, and then I can plug it in and sort the wire out some more. I've mounted my gauge up here. Does like I can't screw the things in stupidly tight because I don't want to crack the backs of these, the air vents. As you can see, it works. So I've now got an AFR gauge, and there's my blitz boost gauge, well, and push controller, so that's everything set up, ready to go. As you see, it does idling, it's doing its heat up process. There we go, idling. As you can see, it works. Give it a little rev. So if you're probably at this stage, you already know, more than likely, why you want an AFR gauge. Tuning, obviously, you're trying to get more power out of your end. But do you know why AFR is so important? So if you're running a gasoline engine, or petrol, as we call it in this side of the world, your stoichiometric, what you call stoichiometric combustion, is 14.7 to 1. For fuel, or petrol, gasoline, as I've said. So that's the perfect fuel to air mixture in a combustion cycle, or in your cylinder pressure at any one given time. But many things change where you would want your actual AFR values. So how much boost you're running, your compression ratios. So the higher your compression ratio, your stoichiometric value still won't change. The perfect combustion cycle is 14.7 to 1. But the higher combustion you have, when the piston's coming up for that combustion cycle, you produce more heat, because you're taking your 1 atmospheric pressure, this around us, so you've got 10 to 1 compression, and then you're compressing it 10 times. So if you're at base level, that's 14.7 to 1. That's 14.71 is your base pressure, atmospheric pressure. You combust that 10 times. You've then got 140 in this tiny little gap that you're squirting fuel in. The fuel's cooling it down, granted, because that's why people run methanol more, because you can, the evaporation characteristics and how much heat it all absorbs. But that's a bit, I'll save that for a different video. So you're compressing that, and because it's getting that hot, because you're compressing it that much, it's auto-igniting the fuel. So that knock is auto-ignition of fuel before the spark plug fires. So you've got your piston coming up, and on your upstroke, and then say you're at this point, and you run too lean. So you're running 12 to 1. You might not be getting any knock, but because you're running it lean, and that because you've got more oxygen, so more oxygen fuels the fire, more heat, which in a piston engine, yeah, great for spooling turbos, great if you're drag racing or anything, but you always, if you run lean or too lean, you run the risk of knock, and knock destroys engines, because that's like someone going, right, I'm pushing this up and then I'm hitting it with a hammer. It breaks things. While running too rich, the compression, yeah, you get a good ignition, but you're wasting a load of fuel. And if you run too rich, you can wash your board. So the protective coating of oil that goes on your board, you end up washing away. So it's finding the balance between those. That's why you install an AFR gauge. I wouldn't personally run 19 AFR. I like mine to sit around 16.7 to 17.2 is where I want my idle to sit in my car. So I know warms up efficiently and fairly quickly, and I'm not wasting a load of fuel, and 2, because it's on the safer edge of, so the higher the number, the leaner it is. So 20 is what most AFR gauges read. Some read 22. That's, so you have 22 parts of oxygen for 1 part of fuel. That's ridiculously rich. Ridiculously lean. That's a lot of heat. Energy has to go somewhere. You can't make energy, you can't destroy energy, it's just transferred. It's the basic law of physics. So that heat, yeah, and then you know when you see exhaust glowing bright red, glowing cherry red, that's heat. That's it escaping, that's it radiating out of the exhaust manifold, and vice versa, and you make noise. So heat always goes somewhere. So your compression ratio, everything takes a factor. So when you're tuning your car, which I'll be doing in the area myself, it's always a factor. Like, I know that engine is running on a compression test 100 and I think it's, what was it, when I did a wet compression test it was 180, and when it was a normal wide open throttle compression test without boost I was still getting in the 140s. So that engine was not supposed to be that high, so I've rebuilt it fairly well, but I've bumped the compression up because I had the head skinned and put a slightly thinner head gasket on, higher than what it was supposed to be, which was 8:1 max, I think. When you're on boost, in my case, the more boost you run, the richer you want your mixture, to a sense. And on boost I'm running very, very low 12s and high 11s, which to me is perfectly fine, it's acceptable. So, but if I'd screw, the more boost I would put into that engine through that turbo, so say I took my 1 bar, put it up to 1.2 bar, it would lean my mixture out because I'm pushing more air in and I haven't put any more duty on my injector. So that's basically like opening time, how long to open, how much fuel it's sprayed in. So I'm left with that quandary of where do you go. So with, you always have to remember, more boost, you need more duty on your fuel. Unless you're running mega rich. If you're in the 10s and you get your FRs, unless you're already running super boost, you've got a safe margin to add more boost. Air fuel ratio is one of the most important topics. As I said, stoichiometric, perfect combustion. Cruising, you want around high 15s for cruising. So like you're cruising on the road 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour, you want around your 15s to be fuel efficient. You could, if you wanted to, push it to the low 16s, but I personally wouldn't. And then if you're driving hard and you're accelerating hard and you're under boost, or you've got a high rev engine, you have high RPMs with lots of compression, I wouldn't drop on, like, I wouldn't go higher than a 12. 12's as high as I would go. That's as high as I feel comfortable ever pushing a boosted engine. I've had loads of engines tuned by different people, and just from personal experience, what I've done at work and all that, is I wouldn't run an AFR higher than 12. So that's my 50 pence or 50 cents if you're American on AFRs, and why an AFR gauge is so important. Just remember guys, like, comment, subscribe. Peace out for now.